Okay, thank you. Good afternoon and welcome to Battleground. It is Monday, July 16th, and I'm David Menzies filling in for Ezra, who is on assignment, as we like to say in this business. By the way, I just noticed it says that Battleground starts at 12 p.m. That's not quite true. It's 12 noon. And I'm telling you this, folks, because last August, I successfully fought a parking ticket because I was not allowed to park. Well, actually, the way the sign was written was 12 a.m. and 12 p.m. And I went to court to prove that there's no such thing as 12 a.m. and 12 p.m. And you know what? I won. So anyone who's got any kind of parking ticket in which they use a.m. and p.m. With the number 12, just take my precedent that the Menzoid set last August in Toronto and go to court and you will defeat that parking ticket. I think the parking ticket was $30 and I probably spent, I don't know, $300 in research fighting it, but still I fought it. And from now on, please, it's 12 noon and 12 midnight. I'll pass that on to our team of trained broadcast professionals. So did you have a good weekend? It was roasting in Southern Ontario. I guess the bad news is the World Cup soccer is over. And the good news is the World Cup of Soccer is over. Yes, France has won, Amy in accounting. It's always someone like Amy in accounting, isn't it, that wins the soccer pool. It's someone who isn't tied to the sport. But anyways, I'm not going to say anything more about soccer. If anyone tuned in on Friday, you know my position. My 4 points for making soccer a good game, which is to say more like ice hockey. Put boards around the pitch so that bloody ball doesn't fly out of bounds every 10 seconds. Eliminate diving. In other words, kick out the players or give them red cards, whoever does that. So this is incumbent on the refs because soccer players will never change their behavior that way. Eliminate those penalty kicks. You know, if something goes into overtime, play till you drop. Be like men, okay? Not that kicks from 10 yards out. And also bigger nets. We like lots of scoring here in North America. We don't like 1-0 games and 0-0 games. So bigger nets, or failing that, just have goalkeepers who are midgets. And you know what? I would tune in just for that. And so what else is happening? Someone was just speaking in my ear. Justin, could you say what you were just saying to me? Oh, all right then. We have French hooligans. There you go. Now, look at it. Now, this is in France, right? Yeah. You know, this is very interesting. As you can see, hooligans, there's been a car overturned. These are the winners. You know, these aren't the losers, right? This isn't like what happens in Vancouver every few years or so when the Vancouver Canucks blow the Stanley Cup final, and the citizens react by going on a rampage. I'm not condoning it, but I can understand the anger. But this is a new phenomenon in the last 10 to 15 years, I'd say, regardless of the sport, and that is whoever the championship team is, the fans act as hooligans. They overturn cars, they vandalize buildings, but why? Your team won. Shouldn't you be joyous and happy? You know, folks, I remember, way back, 1992 and 1993, when the Toronto Blue Jays won back-to-back World Series. And I can tell you back then, you had cops estimated 1 million people on the streets of Toronto jumping up and down in jubilation, and there was virtually no reports, none, of damage, vandalism, assaults. So what changed? Why do the fans of a winning team like France, why would they respond like that? I can't quite figure that out. And I don't think it's a French thing, because when American sports teams win, I remember there was this problem in Dallas a while back, Philadelphia. If you've got any theories, please weigh in. And of course, happy to read your comments. If you can kick in $1 or $2 or $5, that makes it a super chat, and we guarantee to read it. And there you go. And I'll just check the what's coming in so far. And well, here we have alcohol and drugs makes them do this from SynthWorks. Yeah, I agree. You know, that is a contributing factor. But I'll tell you, there were, going back to 92, 93 with all those Blue Jay fans, there were some very drunken people there, but they were good drunks, not evil drunks, not bad drunks, not mean drunks. So again, I don't think it's just that. And then we have Amanda Joy, again, fans full of booze and stupidity. I think more heavily on the stupidity. And again, SynthWorks says mindless scum. Well, you know what, SynthWorks, using that kind of terminology gets you in trouble with the left. I mean, I had a commentary last week where Mayor John Tory, for calling gangbangers who shot at 2 innocent little girls in a playground, he called them, justifiably so in my opinion, sewer rats. And members of the left, such as Desmond Cole, came out saying, how dare the mayor stigmatize an entire community like that. By the way, the mayor didn't even know the race of the shooters when he made that comment. So really, Desmond, who is the racist in that case? And let's see, what else we have. Let's be honest, it's a crowd like this. I just lost that quote. And there you go. And I also saw way up at the top, to start things off, somebody mentioned something about a Sadiq Khan balloon. And there was another factor of it. Do we have that? I'm having a little trouble scroll. Oh, here we are. Bear with me, folks. Okay, it's from VZIX. Anyone seen the balloon of Sadiq Khan being blanketed by a pig? Well, I'll tell you, I don't know if that's a true thing or not. I know there was a fundraiser to make a Sadiq Khan balloon. If they're putting a pig in there, given the way the UK is, and given the fact that there's, 900 police officers, I'm just looking at the giant Sadiq Khan baby balloon image right now. Of course, that's a doctored image. I don't think that's actually happened yet. But if you're going to add in the pig or any kind of bacon reference, of course, that's going to be interpreted as a hate crime. And not only will the balloon be grounded, the people behind the balloon will be grounded, as in grounded in prison, because that's the way they roll in the UK in terms of freedom of speech. So, and you know what? They might even consider just a balloon of Sadiq Khan a hate crime too, depending on the interpretation. But I have not seen that yet, but I'd sure like to, I'll tell you that much. And so what else do we have here? Okay, then. Khan is a disgrace to politics, and that's from a Czech nationalist. I tend to agree. And so in the news, what happened in the state of Israel on the weekend? Well, in the town of Sderot. And I was in that town just 2 weeks ago with my fellow rebels, such as Katie Hopkins and Ezra Levant and Sheila Gunn Reid, and the rest. And it's an incredible town, folks. It's about 28,000 people, and it is the closest town in Israel to Gaza. So therefore, when there's going to be a deluge of rockets, this is target numero uno. And such was the case on the weekend. Rockets were fired into the town of Sderot. And there was some damage. I think 4 people were injured. And of course, if you read the mainstream media, everyone is upset about Israel retaliating. But really, what are you supposed to do? This is Israel, sovereign land. And there's the CNN report. UN urges Israel and Gaza to step back from the brink of war. Well, a couple of things, folks. Do you know in Israel, I found this hilarious, no matter who we spoke to, IDF people living on a kibbutz, individual citizens, you see these UN vehicles, these black and white vehicles all over Israel, and in virtually the entire nation refers to them as the United Nothings. They just drive around, fly around, they're observing, and then when something like this happens, they condemn, and typically they condemn Israel. And the funny thing is, too, is that, when it comes to Israel defending itself, it's always a case of disproportionate force, right? Let's see, we're looking at some video footage now of the Israeli military taking out some installations there, probably where the rockets came from. But, in the history of war, I can't remember this being a thing. This whole idea that you responded in a disproportionate manner. I mean, if the Romans were going to fight the Phoenicians, and, the field general learns that, the Phoenicians have 25 boats and 400 men, so therefore we should only send out 25 boats and 400 men. No, if I want to win, I'm going to send out 100 boats and 3,000 men. So that's typically how war has always been played, but not when it comes to Israel just trying to defend itself, its borders, and its citizens. And Sderot, it's a very interesting town, folks, in that they have playgrounds, and the difference between playgrounds in Sderot and the rest of the world pretty much is that they're indoor playgrounds. Even though the climate is beautiful, you could play outdoors all year round. And that is just so that kids have a chance of growing into adults and not being incinerated in an outdoor playground. I mean, it's just so perverse. It's kind of like, hey kids, it's a beautiful day. Let's get inside and play. That is the way life is. And I really take my hat off to the people living there, because they're not backing down, despite all these rockets going in, despite damage, injuries, even fatalities. The population of this town is increasing. And by the way, there's some video footage that we shot. As you can see, there's the lovely Sheila Gunn-Reid. I think she's the one that coined Sderot as being the bomb shelter capital of the world, and she's probably right about that on a per capita basis. And the population is 28,000, I believe, which is an increase of thousands more since one of the last horrific attacks a few years ago. So there we go, and I'll go to the board, see what's happening. And we have from Nolan Baptiste, us Canadians need to protect our own border to our country safe, or to keep our country safe, I think you mean to say, Nolan. And you're right. And it's funny you mention that, Nolan, because I couldn't help but notice one of the people to weigh in on the Israeli action on the weekend was good old Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She's the U.S. congressional candidate for the Democrats for the Bronx and Queens. And this is the person, if you recall, wants the elimination of ICE. Okay, yeah, she wants Immigration and Customs Enforcement in the U.S. eliminated. And she's talking about the occupation of Palestine. I just find it perversely ironic that this woman's talking about an occupation of Palestine, but wants the apparatus in the United States removed so that the United States can be occupied by, well, anybody. She's one of these, people that believe no one is illegal and that a nation shouldn't have control over its own borders. In fact, there shouldn't be borders. So it's kind of funny to see how she uses the word occupation. And I think we have a clip of her. My wonderful producer friend Alex is waving, and you'll see some of the nonsense that comes out of her mouth. This is from a previous interview, but let's check out Mrs. Cortez.
to abolish ICE, and you recently traveled to the border to Tornillo, Texas, to see the shelters, to see where some of these separated families are being held. What would you replace ICE with, and do we not need protection at the border?
Well, we absolutely do need to make sure that our borders are secure, to make sure that people are safe in passage. But what we need to realize and remember is that ICE was established in 2003, right at the same time as the Patriot Act, the AUMF, the Iraq War. And we look back at a lot of that time and legislation as a mistake now. And I think that ICE is right there as a part of it. It has its extrajudicial nature is baked in to the structure of the agency, and that is why they're able to get away with black sites at our border, with the separation of children. We are committing human rights abuses on this border and separating children from their families, and that is part of the structure of the agency. We can replace it, and we can replace it with a humane agency that is directed towards safe passage instead of the direction of the criminalization.
What do you mean black sites? What do you mean about ICE black sites?
So I was just. Yes. So actually, we were just hopping off MSNBC, and they were talking about it. Basically, what we have is that people are not able to access, even our own members of Congress are not able to access what is happening in these sites. And that in and of itself, the secretive nature, and when we know that children are being kept and that human rights abuses are happening in without any sort of transparency or accountability, that is where we're at right now. That is simply what is happening.
I would note those facilities run by HHS, but I know some of the lawmakers who've even gotten inside have not been able to see some of the children.
You know, when you even have CNN interviewers looking in a very quizzical, stunned fashion at what they're hearing, you're in the real deep end of left-wing lunacy. I'm trying to figure out what she was trying to say there, that we no longer need ICE because times are different and we need a more humanitarian approach. I think those were some of her words. So I guess, I don't know, we have these goodwill ambassadors on the American border, and when illegals come in, because she, in her world, she doesn't want any kind of border control, they ask really nicely, and maybe give a daffodil or a rose and say, could you please get in line and apply legally, and in the meantime go back to Mexico or Nicaragua or wherever you walked over from. I think that has a high percentile chance of working. Just absolutely incredible. And we have, I think, another clip of her, a more recent one. Guys, do we have that one too? Yep, okay. Here's some more pithy prose from Miss Cortez.
But of course, the dynamic there in terms of geopolitics and the war in the Middle East is very different than people expressing their First Amendment right to protest.
Well, yes, but I also think that what people are starting to see, at least in the occupation of Palestine, is just an increasing crisis of humanitarian condition. And that, to me, is just where I tend to come from on this issue.
You use the term the occupation of Palestine. What did you mean by that?
I think what I meant is like the settlements that are increasing in some of these areas and places where Palestinians are experiencing difficulty in access to their housing and homes.
Do you think you can expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd also just, I am not the expert on geopolitics on this issue.
Well, she got one thing right on the money. I am not the expert on geopolitics on this issue. In fairness, folks, she is only 28, and it shows. And I think what she has to do is get out of the Bronx and book passage to Israel and get on the ground like we did and see what the real situation is. And also, she doesn't have to do that much. She can learn that, Israel's been out of Gaza for years now. So what is she talking about in terms of occupation? But, this is part of the problem. When we had the fact-finding mission to Israel last month and for the first week of July, it was a terrific success. And we had about 60 rebel fans with us. And part of the problem, I think, folks, is that people that were on this trip, it was kind of preaching to the converted, and that's by the way, that's not meant to be taken as an insult or a knock or anything else. It's that these people have an understanding of what the situation is. Who we need on these trips are people like Miss Cortez, people that know nothing or have an ideological viewpoint of a situation that is akin to science fiction. We need those kind of people to come on a trip to Israel and to visit a town like Sderot and see what the real situation is on the ground. And then you won't have those kind of embarrassing interviews, or at least I hope not. Let's hope with age and experience and doing a little research, she changes some of these kind of opinions. But wow, this is the new face of the Democrats now. I mean, it's her, Bernie Sanders. What's the name of the other one? The one who's like 2 billionths Indian, Elizabeth Warren. Yeah, that's the one. Oh, I'm getting so many names in my ear right now, and they're all a bunch of winners. And hey, look on the bright side, folks. A second term for Donald Trump, it's a slam dunk. And let's see what else we have to say. So Czech nationalist weighs in again. Ideology collides with reality. That's right. And on the left these days, Czech nationalist, it seems that ideology trumps reality. And someone asked Kendra, ? I'm not sure what that reference is. Let's see. Oh, Kendra Oppenheim. I don't know. I'm not good with the Palestine-Israel thing. I guess you're referring to the two-state solution there. I'm not a fan of the two-state solution either. I'm a fan of the one-state solution, and partly because the two-state solution at one point would reduce Israel at its narrowest point to just 9 miles wide. In other words, it would be an indefensible country. So there you have it. Let's see. Too legit to quit says experience hasn't helped Bernie in the least. Maybe there is hope for her. Well, you know what? You're right. Because, I mean, how old is Bernie right now? I think they don't give him birthday cakes anymore. I think they just carbon date him. But when he was in Ontario for a photo op, I think it was just before the U.S. election. And, of course, Kathleen Wynne was the premier there. So we're talking two kindred spirits. And they went to one of our hospitals, and I believe it was a migrant or a refugee was being treated in a hospital bed, and Bernie looked around and his quote was, "You mean all of this is free?" And Kathleen Wynne and all the minions were nodding. No, it's not. Bernie, you should see what our tax threshold is. But nevertheless, the Toronto Star reported it glowingly as, look how wonderful our free care for refugees is here in Ontario and Toronto. Unbelievable. So, yes, age and experience has not been kind to Bernie. So for Toxic Chat says, Israel needs a gay black transgender to be the prime minister in the name of diversity. Well, you know what? I don't think that would be enough. Because one of the things I noticed also in Israel, we were driving around Tel Aviv and we passed by a couple of stores and they had the LGBTQ rainbow flags on display. And I wish I had time to get off the bus and talk to the storekeepers there, because I'd love to get their opinion in terms of here in Toronto. Until very recently, we had for years at the Gay Pride Parade a group called Queers Against Israeli Apartheid. Now, it's perverse on so many levels, folks. First of all, there is no apartheid in Israel. So if the very name of your organization is based on a lie, then what is the real agenda? I would suggest it's nothing more than good old-fashioned anti-Semitism. And the second thing is, gee, riddle me this. Which is the only country in all of the Middle East that has not one but 2 gay pride parades every year? Well, yes, it is Israel, because if you have a gay pride parade or even fly that flag in so many other Middle Eastern countries in the neighborhood in which Israel resides, you are cruising for a bruising, to say the least. So, yeah, the idea of having a person of color, transgender, whatever that descriptor was, still there would be a hate-on for Israel, because these parades are already taking place in Israel, and instead of Israel being applauded, we have floats in gay pride parades in the West denouncing Israeli apartheid, and this is on behalf of queers. Unbelievable. Couldn't make it up. And let's see, what else do we have? So PhD, Craven Moorhead, anti-Semitism, laughing my ass off, LMAO, I believe that's what they say. Well, I don't know what you're laughing about. Did I get that wrong? I mean, if there is no apartheid, and that's part of your name, and your name is based on a lie, then what do you think the real reason is? Please educate me there. And Synthworks writes, apparently their flags are highly flammable. Oh, for sure. And if they're not, they'll find some incendiary device to make them flammable. And let's see, we have, open borders for Israel from PhD Craven Moorhead again. Well, I'd say even with the wall and the fence, you have problems. So could you imagine if there were open borders for Israel? And the Grim Reaper writes, LGBTIQIP+. I think, you're missing some letters there. I know Stephen LeDrew got fired from CP24 after spending some 20 years there. Remember, he was defending the acronym with, he was on the Tucker Carlson show on Fox. And I think that LGBT thingamabobber was up to 16 letters. I could never possibly remember them all, but maybe that's a good idea. From now on, just put LGBTQ and plus, and the plus refers to whatever the current number of initials are. And El Chapagara writes, Israel should take over the Mideast. Well, the funny thing is Israel is the military superpower in the Middle East, and it could, if it wanted to, level its enemies, but Israel fights with perhaps both hands tied behind its back, but certainly from the display of the Air Force that we saw at the Israeli Air Force Center when they were graduating those cadets almost 2 weeks ago, the firepower at its disposal, if it really chose to act in a disproportionate manner, well, their enemies would be vanquished, that's for sure. And let's see, Mark Jones is anti-Semitic. What exactly is it anyway? Criticism of Judea. Explain, David. Well, no, I'm just saying, Mark, that this particular group, Queers Against Israeli Apartheid, has the use of word apartheid in its title. There is no apartheid in Israel, so why would you use the word apartheid? So I'm guessing they're simply anti-Semitic because the name is based on a lie. So if you've got another theory, let me hear it. And Mark Jones also writes, Saudi Arabia spends more dollars. That might be true, but I wonder what the ability of the Saudi army, as we've seen on several occasions, Israel, whether it was the 6 Days War, the Yom Kippur War, defending itself against combined Arab nations and always winning. Let's see. We have Gemellenic. Israel equals monopolist for shooting strangers. Well, I'm not sure what that means. I mean, if you're, I guess, protesters that are throwing makeshift bombs and Molotov cocktails, I guess they are strangers, but if they're committing a criminal act like that and they're not moving back, well then you have to shoot them. They're carrying out acts of violence. And let's see, Kendra Oppenheim again. Some have a crazy theory that LGBT is now designed to push for pedos. I guess that means pedophiles, because look how many there are in the media. Well, I don't know if that's true. Certainly, we had, well, it wasn't a pedophile, but Ben Levin, who was one of the architects of the now dismissed sex ed curriculum, was into child pornography and did jail time for that, even the creation of child pornography. But if you can give us some names on the public record, fire away. All right. Now, moving on. Speaking of the sex ed curriculum, Premier Doug Ford, he's back in the news again today as well. He is introducing, his party, his government rather, is introducing back to work legislation for all the teaching assistants and contract workers at York University. Now, folks, this strike has been going on for 4 months. It seems that, at York University, maybe they should hold placards when they're not on strike, because it seems that they're on strike more than they're actually in the classroom. I think after 4 months of collective bargaining, and the fact that this is going to wipe out, the years, the semesters for kids, and it's causing all kinds of economic and scheduling hardship. But anyways, I think after 4 months, when both sides can't come to an agreement, you got to go into the room and go, either you're both wrong or you're both right. Doesn't matter. We have to end this now. So they want to bring in this back to work legislation. I think 4 months is more than enough time to have a kick at the can. But, well, look who's screaming blue murder about this. We have the Canadian Union of Public Employees. We have the Canadian Federation of Students, the Canadian Civil Liberties Union. They're all urging MPPs to support workers' charter rights and, not to have this back to work legislation. It's really interesting, isn't it, folks? The one that stands out here is the Canadian Federation of Students. Now, if you represented the needs and wants of students, wouldn't you be all about having back to work legislation? So the students who can't get to class can get to class, but these cats are on the side of the progressive public sector employee unions. Well, why is your name the Canadian Federation of Students? You don't care about the students, you just care about a left-wing agenda. And it's all about, public sector union entitlements. And it's the credo there seems to be we are entitled to our entitlements. It's funny, I have it was posted on the weekend, folks, a story on a Spanish civil servant. It was found out that for more than a decade, this guy was coming into work bright and early, punching the clock and leaving at quitting time because it's a government job. That means 4 p.m. And had a pretty good attendance record, except for one thing. Between going to work and quitting time, he never did any work. He just went out of the office and found a place to have a cafe or take a snooze. So in between the fiestas and the siestas, he did nothing but check in and check out. Well, they finally caught on to him. It only took over a decade, and they fired him, much to his misery. But you know what? They left the door open for him. He can still reapply for his job after 9 years, because I guess a lifetime ban would just be too mean and rotten and cruel, wouldn't it? And so anyways, we have, let's see, okay, so from Petra Heinrichs, hi David, from a journalistic point of view, would you have rather been in Israel reporting, oh, I just lost, I'll try to get that back, folks, because I do want to answer that. And from Dave Kerr, teaching is a dying profession. AI experts said a couple weeks ago that teaching will be extinct as a profession within 10 years. High cost plus low income equals recipe for extinction. I don't think so. Certainly what AI will be like in 10 years will be fascinating. But again, I could see all the public sector unions banding together to having legislation written so that there would be no AI that would replace a living teacher in his or her job. So there's a political thing to overcome. David Kiver writes, Spanish guy sounds like Trudeau. That's funny. And indeed, you're right. I mean, then has there ever been a prime minister? I mean, I might be wrong, but has there ever been a prime minister that has taken so many personal days off? I mean, he continually, it seems, needs to recover from a meeting, and yet you have other heads of state who are much older, like Donald Trump, who are literally flying around the world, zero downtime in the schedule. But Trudeau needs a personal day off, or he needs to go to an island and relax on a beach. Yeah, I think Trudeau would be well suited for that antiquities job that the Spanish civil servant was fired for. That's if it involves a lot of fiestas and siestas, of course. And we have a super chat. Being a fan of your segments, would you ever consider doing an AMA? Well, before I go in on that, AMA stands for what exactly? I want to find out what that... Oh, ask me anything. That was our trained broadcast professional, Justin, in my ear. Yeah, well, you can ask me. I think you are asking me anything, and I'm trying to answer as honestly as I can. So ask me anything, but keep it family friendly. And... okay, from Goatman, Trudeau never worked a real job in his life. Well, yeah, he's a trust fund kid, and he got to where he is by having the right DNA, essentially. And oh boy, are we paying for it. And let's see, Mark Jones, Donald played golf all weekend in Scotland, David. Well, yeah, that's true, but you know, isn't that a form of physical exercise at least? I mean, I'm not a golfer. And you know what? I think isn't that sort of the customary thing to do for a head of state? If you go to Scotland, you got to do a round of golf. I mean, that's where golf was invented. And it's not curling season. So I'm going to give the president a pass on that. And by the way, how much golf did Barack Obama play during his term in office? And let's see, JB Duke says, time to send Justin back to the drama class. 2019 can't come quick enough. Well, you know, I will give Justin this. He must have scored an A+ in drama class. We have seen him apologize endlessly. Let's see. He's apologized to the LGBT community. He's apologized to Aboriginals a couple of times. We have a whole highlight reel on Rebel of him offering his apologies. And it's not just apologies, folks. It's tearful apologies. I mean, I'm always amazed by any actor or actress out there who can cry on cue. And Justin can do that. It's an amazing skill. It really is. Not a good skill as a prime minister, mind you, but it is a good skill to have if you are an actor or a drama teacher. So maybe that's his true calling. And by the way, as has been discussed in this space before, you notice the teary-eyed apologies. It's always for the sins of others. It's not for what he's done, such as I don't know, groping a reporter 18 years ago in Kokanee. No, that's a teachable moment and time to move on and nothing to see here, folks. But when it comes to the systemic racism or homophobia or you name it of others, he can turn on those tears like the Niagara Falls. So there you go, Justin. Please, should things not go your way in the next election, I think you would be an excellent drama teacher. You've proved it time and time again how good you are. And we have JB Duke apologizes and acting both start with the same letter. That's true, it does. And Too Legit to Quit says BO played a lot of golf and still sucks at it. Well, maybe. I don't know what his scores are. And from Petra Heinrichs, Justin could easily become a Bollywood actor. You know, he could. And it's funny you mentioned that, Paula, because when he did that, to me, that's been the most disgraceful part of Justin's ongoing Mr. Dress-Up act, is the fact that when he went to India, he wore clothes that you would either see only in a Bollywood movie being filmed in India or at an Indian wedding. I mean, that's how formal, and how ceremonial those clothes were. I mean, it would be like, I don't know, someone looking at a Canadian wedding and seeing the groom and the bride in a tuxedo and a wedding dress, and then going, to go shopping at the Eaton Centre in a tuxedo and a wedding dress. I mean, you'd stand out like two big proverbial sore thumbs, which he did. And I wonder, did we ever find out what the cost of those costumes were? Because yeah, there they are. Look at that. Holy smokes. And the kids too. Oh, I feel bad for those kids. And Sophie, I wonder what Sophie's praying for right there. But you don't, if you're walking the streets of New Delhi on a typical day, you're not seeing a whole heck of a lot of people dress up like that. And let's see. Just looking. Okay. John Zealand writes, even the UN knows Trudeau Groper is an idiot. Well, yeah, but as I said, in Israel they call the UN the United Nothings, and that's what I'm going to be calling them. So takes one to know one, I guess. And we have, yeah, here's another one from Gemahik. I'm probably mispronouncing it, but it's about the cultural appropriations. Did you notice that, folks, in the left-wing mainstream media, that on that India trip, Justin and his family got a complete pass in terms of cultural appropriation? I mean, we have seen people condemned by the usual suspects for all manners of cultural appropriation, hairstyles, wearing hoop earrings, throwing a boomerang around. This is all wrong, and it's all about a culture being appropriated, not appreciated. Why is it that Justin pulled that stunt, and the same media outlets that, especially around Halloween, scream about cultural appropriation, saw nothing there? Hypocrisy, double standard? Yeah, I think so. And we have, from John Haves, the new recipe for successful military operations is to find it moved too fast. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry about this, folks. I'm going to have to get a little faster with my reading, I suppose. And I will try as the days go on. By the way, you have me for 3 more days this week. I apologize in advance for those who miss Ezra. And let's see. And we only have 190 watching now. Can we get that up? The boss keeps track of these numbers and the money coming in from for the super chat. So if you can be so kind as to tune in and to donate, that would put me in good standing with Mr. Levant. Okay. And we have from SynthWorks. Oh, wait, here we have another super chat. Let me get up to that. Sorry, guys. Okay, I'm having some technical difficulties of maybe one of our... Okay, Joel GJ, $5. Thank you so much for that. If Trudeau had cojones, he would wear a lungi. Too bad he is exactly Stephen Crowder's depiction. Well, you know what, Joel, can you send along what a lungi looks like? But I'm almost betting that that would be cultural appropriation too. But now here's something I want all of you to wear. As you can see, we have the Justin Trudeau Grope t-shirt. You see it says Grope. It's a takeoff on that iconic Obama painting that says hope. But because our guy has no hope and he does a lot of the grope, or at least he did, that's what we've gone with. And it's a beautiful shirt. I can't wait to wear mine proudly. And it's going to be interesting. I wonder, we have a rash of incidents in the U.S. where people, even kids, wearing Make America Great Again hats are getting verbally harassed and even physically assaulted just for their fashion choice. In fact, there was a few people a few days ago that an Uber driver in Washington told them to get out of their car because they weren't even wearing their MAGA hats, they were just carrying them. And once he saw them with those MAGA hats, he said, sorry, I can't complete this ride. I can't even begin it. And they were booted out of the car. I'm only bringing this up because, again, it shows the infantile level of the left right now and how they personally take out their vendetta against people that don't conform to their freedom of speech, their version of freedom of speech. But more to the point, I wonder when people are wearing those Grope t-shirts, once they get into the pipeline and get into your mailboxes, I just wonder what the reaction is going to be. I'm wondering if people, the Trudeau supporters are even going to get it, or, they're even going to, maybe they're going to misconstrue Grope as hope. I don't know. But like I said, I can hardly wait to wear mine. And you have to admit, it is a beautiful t-shirt, and what a great idea, if I do say so myself. And we have from Tammy that Indian trip/vacation was a complete disaster, and he created, I'm not sure if the email's cut off, but yeah, can even Trudeau supporters say that was a success? Especially when you're met at the airport by, I believe it was the Deputy Minister of Agriculture. I mean, that's embarrassing. That's humiliating. The Deputy Minister of Agriculture. And we know it was a disaster for so many other reasons other than costume choices too. So let's see how we are going here. And right. See, one of the issues I have, folks, when I'm reading some of these comments, they seem to be comments made about other comments. So I feel like I'm somebody walking into a theater with at the halfway mark of the movie, and I'm not sure what. So too legit to quit. Well, a MAGA hat is just an invite to be attacked by the intolerant left. Progressives can't help themselves. Yeah, and when did this become the new normal? I remember when Reagan was president from 1980 to 1988, Reagan was a polarizing president, and the media were tough on Reagan, no question about it. But nothing compared to what we're seeing these days, folks. These are uncharted waters we're in, where you have media bias off the charts, and you have people reacting violently to caps and t-shirts, for goodness sakes. It's a sorry state of civility, to say the least. And let's see. Miss Lil Pig writes, Trudeau waves at no one at airports, funny as hell. I didn't know that. Maybe no one's waving at him. And Tammy writes again, David, my Grote t-shirt should be arriving any day. Ordered it last week. Well, God bless you, Tammy. And I hope it gets there very quick. I can hardly wait to see mine, too. And I'm going to buy one for Lady Menzoid, too, who I actually did grope on the weekend, but I'm allowed to. Because, not just because I'm the husband, but because, oh geez, Alex is burying his face in his hands, my producer. No, Alex, it's not because I'm her husband, it's because it was consensual and she wanted to be groped. That's the difference between my groping on the weekend of Lady Menzoid and what Justin Trudeau did 18 years ago in Kokanee. But to the point at hand, what is the size when you are buying for a lady? And I've been told that even no matter how large the person is, never buy bigger than a medium. Even though if you know you're going to get it wrong, even though it should be double XL, never buy the double XL. Buy the medium and then have her tell you, oh, sweetie, it doesn't fit. Then send it back and get the appropriate size. That will bring all kinds of harmony to a marriage. And I can tell you, Alex is trying to hide his face, but it's still buried in his hands. I'm giving you this advice, Alex, for your lady friends in the future and to all you wonderful folks out there as well. And let's see. From Amanda Joy, perhaps you need a bigger monitor to see all the comments. You know what? What do you think, guys? Can we get a bigger monitor for the days ahead? It would help. And a bigger font on the letters. But thank you for that. And David River says, David, you've got to see the video of Trudeau waving to no one. Funniest thing you will ever see. Please watch it or even bring it up now. Do we have that video, guys? Is there some video out there of Trudeau waving to nobody? Because our viewers seem to think that is a thing. And I'd love to see that video too. And Tammy writes, Lady Menzoid, she must have the patience of a saint. She does. I mean, she's put up with me for 27 years. And why, from Saint Jean d'Arc, why is this badly timed? Oh, I think that's a comment about something else. And from Wake Up, Rebel Media, oh, brother, just buy the correct size. It shows you know her. I'm a woman, by the way. Yeah, I'd still like to think I'm blissfully ignorant. And by the way, I got to say this, too. When it comes to women's clothing, sizes mean nothing. I have found through bitter experience in trying to get the right size that one manufacturer's size 8 is another manufacturer's size 12, is another manufacturer's size 6. So I don't think there is any kind of standardized sizing for women's sizes in the fashion industry. In fact, I think it's a marketing gimmick. I think they're all making the numbers smaller, even though the garments are getting bigger, just to make the person think she's buying a smaller size. That's just my theory. I might be wrong. Lisa Leto says, my son knows to only buy size small. Well, your son loves you then. What can I say? And my team of trained broadcast professionals, ladies and gentlemen, tell me they have the waving clip. I would love to see that waving clip. Here we go. Okay, so it's Trudeau walking to a very large airplane. He's getting a salute. He's waving. And, well, I'm going to assume there was nobody there. I didn't see anyone on the way to the plane. So, but who's to say there, I don't know, wasn't somebody maybe in air traffic control waving at him? But there you go. I wonder where he was off to, too. Do you think that was business or was that a personal day off? Okay, then. And let's see. To me, so, Miss Lil Pig, I love buying huge T-shirts so I can use them as PJs. See, that works. And Tammy says he also ignores salute. Good point. And you know what? That's not the first time he's ignored a salute. He was, I remember he was receiving a portrait once, I believe, and the police officer was saluting him, and I think Trudeau leaned in for the hug, for a teary-eyed something or other. He just can't help himself. And Happy Infidel Fox says he was waving at the seagull on the tarmac. Probably. Oh, we have a super chat here. Let me get to it. Let's see, a little more. I'm going to try to call that up. Okay, from Lisa Leto, $10. Thank you so much for your generosity, Lisa. Trump-Putin summit melted many snowflake reporters, as well it should. The thing is, with regardless of where you stand on this Russia issue, and I think the Democrats have a lot more to be fearful than the Republicans when it comes to collusion, you can't ignore Russia. I would classify Russia as neither an ally nor an enemy. It's something sort of in between, yet it's obviously a country you cannot ignore. So this idea on the left that Trump shouldn't be meeting with Putin whatsoever, especially with all these ongoing investigations and accusations going on, it's ridiculous. And how do you like that? The chat just disappeared on me. Maybe one of my trained broadcast professionals can come in and try to fix this gizmo. You see, folks, I'm from a day and age of typewriters, and this never happened. It was always hard copy. And I'll never forget, I had a journalism teacher the first day of school, way back in 1981, and he said, if you take away any lesson from this course, this is what you should take away. And it's this: machines are out to screw you. And you know what? He's 100% right. And what he meant by that, if you're going to go and tape record a very important interview, bring extra batteries, bring 2 tape recorders, always have at least 2 pens, always, pack an extra battery for your camera, whatever it is, because when you need it most, machines are out to screw you. And that's why I can't read any more of your chats, because it has just completely disappeared off the screen. And I see we are in the home stretch of the Battleground. And so what can I tell you? Oh, excellent. We do have the Doug Ford clip, and let's play that now.
Well, the only people getting hurt at York University, and I've met numerous students, are the students. I believe in fair negotiation, and I will always respect that. But there's a time that we have to move forward. But again, over the next day or weeks, we'll address that. We're going to look at all options, and we've been in touch with some of the folks there, and we're going to lay everything on the table and try to get that ended as soon as possible. Because the only people, again, that are getting hurt here are the students, and we want to put a quick end to this.
And there you have it, folks. I mean, this strike, let's be honest about this. This began in March, I believe. Okay, so we're now heading into August. So if 4 months is not enough for the collective bargaining process, well, what is the correct amount of time? Is it 6 months, 8 months? Is it a year? I mean, do we go into September with this still lingering? At some point, like I said, however you want to frame it, you know what, guys, both of you are wrong. You know what, guys, both of you are right. It doesn't matter. It has to end now. Enough is enough. And it is about the kids. And again, I dial this back to one of the agitators screaming about the democratic process being violated here, namely the Canadian Federation of Students. You guys are supposed to be standing up for students. So the idea that you're in the same bed as the public sector unions makes me come up with a suggestion that maybe you want to change your name. You're not really the Canadian Federation of Students. You're just a leftist puppet that is acting in the worst regard to the people that you are supposed to be representing. And again, I think this is more clarity coming out of Queen's Park in just a few weeks than we've had perhaps in 15 years of the McGuinty-Wynne government. There is so much damage to fix. And you know, I can't remember the last time there was a session sitting in summertime, but it just speaks to how much damage has to be cleaned up. And so far, everything I've seen Ford do has been a hit right out of the ballpark. So good on him for doing this. And also, Doug, don't back down to the various unions and the Civil Liberties Union and the Federation of Students, nor their useful idiots in the media. Even if you're to acquiesce to their demands, they'll still hate you and they'll never thank you. So do what's right, do what you said you do, and so far you are doing it. And folks, it is now 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much for tuning in to Battleground. I'll look into this idea of getting a bigger monitor and a monitor that works for the next 3 days. And have a wonderful day. And remember, without risk, there can be no glory. Good afternoon.